Hello and welcome to Mr. Caro's Football Manager 2023 Teams to Be Part 1. Now, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, but for whatever reason I haven't got around to it. Maybe because Football Manager 2022, when I started making videos, was at its kind of end section, if you like. So I didn't feel the need to, or feel there would be much benefit for me making a video like this. But as the game is 23 has just come out, I figured this would be a fun thing to do. So please watch the video and find out who I recommend that you be. So our first team on our list is Bordeaux. Now they are what would be classified as a fallen giant. Last season they got relegated to the League 2 or League 2. And they nearly got relegated to a league below that because of financial difficulties or financial breaking of financial regulations or something on the realms of that. Maybe I should have done my research, but I haven't delved that deep. I just know that they nearly got relegated, and on appeal, they managed to get back to League 2 or League 2. So obviously, if they had got relegated even further, that would have been even greater save than it currently is. But I still think that Bordeaux is a very good save to take on. They are predicted to finish first, so despite the fact that they are obviously in financial troubles, they are expected to finish first. So there is a team that maybe once you get control of, you can certainly rebuild and take them to the next level. So what we're going to do now is we're going to delve a little bit deep into the team. We're going to look at their finances if you had started the game. We'll look at the supporters profile, and we'll get a kind of an idea of what Bordeaux would be like to manage. So stick with this video and we'll find out. So as you can see, these are the club, or this is the club vision, if you like, for the team. Stick between wage budget, finish in the top 4 positions. That's kind of a 5-year plan. So not necessarily expecting the world straight off, although the next season they are expecting to win promotion back. So this first season, they're not necessarily expecting masses, which could be a benefit, I guess. I mean, it really does depend how it goes. I mean, let's see what the club vision develop using youth system. Yeah, so supporters are expecting promotion pretty quick, but generally the team isn't, which is nice. We're not going to do it. Just going to save. That's annoying. I hope that wouldn't come up, but hey, it has, so that's okay. We'll just keep going as we would normally. Now, if we look at the club information, and if we look at our facilities, you can see that we actually do have very great training facilities and excellent youth facilities. Not the greatest in terms of junior coaching and recruitment, but in terms of facilities that we currently have, then it's pretty good. Now, in terms of stadium, rent is 3.27 million, so that's quite a lot of rent for the stadium. However, there is 42,000 capacity, so you'd like to think that would stand a good chance of making some money off that. Now, if we look at the club vision and then we look at supporters, you can see this is a new screen on FM23. So 10% of the fans are hardcore. You've got 33% are core fans. Families 22%. Fair weather is 14. Corporate is 2. And casual is 19. So it's a fair amount of core fans, not so many hardcore fans. That could go in our favour in some aspects, to be honest, with having been relegated to the league below. In terms of media, social media, 661k followers, 4.5 thousand season ticket holders. So that's quite a little amount of season ticket holders compared to the capacity of the stadium. However, I guess they've just been relegated, so that kind of makes sense. Now, if we look at the team, now this is quite hard to do without knowing a lot about them, but if we go to the squad, let's don't want to do that. Let's go to general info and we'll look at value of players. So we've got this guy here, can't pronounce his name, Elbeth Alice, is a Honduran 26-year-old winger, worth 9.4 to 10.5 million, and obviously he's incredibly good at this level. I know this is only going on, it's actually good for the ability as well, isn't it? Yeah. So if we look at our current ability and sort by that, you've got this Brazilian dude, 31-year-old, again, decent, not going to make much money, but I think he's a solid person. He plays in multiple positions as well, which is rather good for that. So we've got him, if we're to take the save forward. So you've got like a solid foundations. Obviously, you've got a couple of players out on loan, which is quite typical of a team in this sort of situation. But generally, this is a guy used to play for Sunderland very many years ago, went on loan to Stoke and went on loan to Fulham and didn't really do anything for those teams. But I would say in this league, he's going to stand a very good chance of getting some goals. And at the age of 23, I think, he's got a lot of potential there if you can keep hold of him now. If we look at the finances, so we've got, despite the fact I say we're in financial difficulties, that's what is reported. The game has not replicated that in terms of their balance. They're saying we've got 10 million in the bank. I don't know what projected is, and projected is good. So this does look like a good save. I didn't do the research in terms, obviously the debt is quite high, but it's only 190,000 a month, which, for a long period of time. So I think, although the debt is pretty high, I think we've got quite a lot of potential to make that work. In terms of wages, you've got no ability to spend any money, but I don't know if you necessarily would need to greatly. I mean, you would probably want to make a few changes in there, here and there, but I don't know if it would be a necessity. I'd probably tend to, if it was me, look at players over the age of 22, 23, and maybe look to ship them out or to sell them. Someone like this, just look down the list. Someone like this guy here, maybe assuming that we've got another goalkeeper, I would possibly look to make some money off that, but you can get 2.3 mil back. And I would possibly look again at someone, maybe a 22-year-old without the potential, someone maybe slightly further down, like this guy, 20-year-old, who's probably not going to come good, personally. So I'd probably look to try and save on him, although he's not saving a lot of wages. Failing that, you could also sort by wages and then try and, he's out on loan. I don't know what his loan deal is like. They're not paying all of it, but paying quite a lot of it. Yeah, so it's not a bad team. I expected a lot worse. Like I say, I hadn't done my research. I wanted to experience it at the same time as you guys, and I did expect a lot worse from Bordeaux. So I'd say that Bordeaux is a pretty good shout for an FM23 save. Okay, so number 2 on our list is Como 1907. Now, they're a team that was relatively new to me until more recently, until Cesc Fabregas signed for them and became a player owner. Now, they're not necessarily a team, unlike Bordeaux, who you're going to have instant success with. I think that's fair to say. Their media prediction is 14. Certainly in my game, it was 14. I know it sometimes fluctuates depending on the signings and so forth, but it was 14 for me. So it may be a hard time initially, but I think there's a good scope to take this team forward. They're a small team in the big scheme of things. I mean, they've got Dennis Wise working for them in the background, which is kind of an interesting novelty, I guess. So they're getting kind of like an English kind of theme. I know Jack Wilshere, before he retired at some point, before he went to Denmark, was linked to this team, and it was a work permit issue that stopped him going. So yeah, I would say that they are a good team to have a look at personally, and we'll delve a little bit deeper like we did with Bordeaux and see what that looks like inside their team. Okay, so very interesting kind of club vision. So in the first season, they want a mid-table and to be competitive in the cup. In the second season, interestingly, they want promotion to Serie A. So it sounds like you're going to have a nice first season, so to speak, but your second season need an upward turn pretty quick. And again, the supporters have got a very similar idea, although they're a bit more reserved, I guess. Remain in Serie B, which is kind of a nice one, that the supporters are a little bit, nicer, I guess, from that kind of idea. So let's have a look at our club facilities like we did with Bordeaux. So media prediction, like we say, I think I said 14, but it's come back as 13. Let's have a look at, so again, training facilities average, youth facilities below average, junior coaching average, and youth recruitment average. So it's a bit different to Bordeaux. They're a little less there in terms of overall finished product. I would say it's an interesting scope or an interesting career to take on. You've got a lot you can kind of build with this team. Let's look at their finances. So they've got 3.7 in the bank. They are expecting big debts. So again, a very different kind of look to Bordeaux. They don't have the debt in terms of loans, but they are going to, and I reckon we'll see the wages will reflect this. So we just jumped ahead without looking at players, which is a different way around than we did previously, but that's okay. So if we look at the transfer budget, 2.1 million or 1.5 million, and wage budget of 4.2. So okay. So if it was me, I think I would take away from if it allowed me, which it's not going to, I would take away from the transfer budget and give some wages. But generally with this sort of teams, for me personally, I would be looking at kind of like free agents to kind of build around that kind of thing. But if we look at the squad, we'll see what we've got. It looks some high potential ability or some high ability in there. We've got Alberto Kerry, target man, loaned, is joining permanently apparently on the 1st to the 7th, so basically next year. He's at Cagliari, 26-year-old. I think I've had him before on FM and he's done all right. He's played for some decent teams, played for Juve or Zebra, if you like, in previous games. I think are they back to Juve now? It seems like that way. Who else we got? Who else we play for? Yeah, they're the only notable teams in there. They've got Patrick Coultrone. I know he played for Wolves a couple of years ago. In fact, they signed him from Wolves. I don't think he did anything for Wolves, to be fair. I don't think he really played a game. They signed him for 16.25 million from Milan, and then he didn't do anything, and then he went on. So his career's kind of kind of stuttered, if you like. But I think he can get going. I think with this team, I mean, he's a high ability player in this league. He's going to get a solid year playing at a lower league. I think there's good potential that he can get going. Now, obviously, we've got Seth Fabregas. He's on a bit of a decline, a 35-year-old, but he brings him enormous experience and only getting paid 7k a week, apparently, as well. So, yeah, someone like him, although he is on the decline, and I think he will decline as the game progresses, obviously, because of his age, and his physical abilities kind of show that, or his natural fitness is good still. But his first touch being 16, his passing and technique, I think he has a lot to offer still, even at the tender age of 35. Now, if we look at other players in there, you've got Leonardo Manicaso on loan from another, I think he's in another Italian team, yeah. So, yeah, we've got players in this team. I think we can, I know that sometimes the star ability is misleading, but I do think there is the ability to kind of take this forward. In terms of players you might want to look to sell, I always look at this kind of same kind of principle, to be fair. Anyone who's kind of like this guy here, for example, if assuming we've got other left backs in the team, I would look, we've got that guy. I would look to kind of get rid of perhaps anyone who kind of older. This guy here, definitely. This guy, more than likely. They're not going to make you loads, but they will save you on the wages. I mean, even if you look at those three combined, that's like nearly 7,000 in wages, maybe over 7,000 in wages you'd save, which I mean could be the difference between getting a couple of players if you time it right. So yeah, that's Como. I would recommend them. They seem like a good save. It's going to be a different save to Bordeaux, that's for sure, but it's not one that you could be steered away from that quickly just because it's more of a challenge. Some people love the challenge, me included, and it might be one I actually do myself. So we're going to move on now to the next team. Okay, let's talk about Nottingham Forest, this being the next team on our list. Now, they're a team that kind of went literally insane in the transfer window, signing 23 players. And to be honest, they didn't let a lot of those players that they wouldn't want to use go. So it's a team, and I have actually played these in the beta. They are my beta team for my saves, on my online saves or my recorded saves, if you like. And yeah, they're a team that has a lot of players that they don't need, is the easy way of putting it. They've got Jack Callback, a quality player perhaps, but he's on 20-odd thousand. He's never going to get a game in that team. And there are lots of players like that within the Nottingham Forest team. So I think for anyone taking on this team, it's a hell of a challenge to try and slim down the wage bill and kind of bring that to a kind of even keel where actually you've got just players that you need and not loads upon loads of players. Now, the media prediction for Nottingham Forest is a lowly 19. Now, that isn't a surprise. They do have quality players in that team, but it's a Premier League we're talking about here. Just because you're paying Jesse Lingard £100,000 a week doesn't mean that you're going to automatically stand more chance of staying up. I think that's the reality of that situation. Now, we're going to delve a little deeper and have a look at the team now. Okay, so here is the club vision. Now, there's a bit strict, to be fair. It's a much stricter kind of idea than the previous two teams we've looked at so far. So they're saying do not sign players over the age of 28, which is quite a low number, especially, I mean, you don't want to sign old players, but it does help you get out of a bit of a pickle, especially if you don't have much money, especially in the first season, I would say personally. Sign players under the age of 23 for the future makes sense. Sign players under the age of 23 for the first team. So they are kind of setting their, standards quite high there. I mean, that's quite the ask to be under 23 and for the first team. I mean, it can be done, obviously, but it's definitely a hard ask. Now, if we look at their 5-year plan, avoid relegation in the first year, be competitive in the FA Cup, and be competitive in the Carabao Cup. So two things that aren't necessarily hard and should be able to do, perhaps. I mean, avoid relegation might be a challenge, but I mean, they're not setting the sights too high. In the second season, work towards becoming an established Premier League team. I think that's pretty standard. And then it's pretty much the same all the way through the 5-year plan, which is quite generous, really, because it could have got mid-table, top half kind of business. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Now, supporters develop players using club's youth system. Okay, we need to develop players using club's youth system. We need to play and entertain an element of football. We need to remain in the Premier League. So they're, again, wanting us to remain in the Premier League, which makes perfect sense, to be honest. That is kind of what you would assume they would want us to do. Now, let's look at, we need to make sure we look at the supporters profile. I realised in the last one I didn't do that, but we're not going to go back. We're just going to move forward. So, and facilities. So we've got good training facilities, good youth facilities, adequate. I always like to get the youth facility, the youth team facilities up. So for me, one of the first things I'll try and do is get junior coaching and youth recruitment up, because they are, when you think about it logically, there are elements that you get free players. They're going to come through the youth system. If they're good, you're going to be able to sell them on. So they are definitely elements, personally, that I would be looking to try and improve straight away. Now, if we go to club vision, and this time we will go to supporters, you can see that 11% of the supporters are hardcore, 37% are core, 17% are family, 18% are fair weather, 2% are corporate, and 15% are casual. So again, not alarming figures. I don't know if you'd want like over 30% hardcore fans. I think that would be a hard sell. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Unless we come across a team that has that, I guess it'd be hard to say whether that would be devastating or not. So if we look at their profile, they've got 1 million social media followers, 10,000 season ticket holders, and none on the waiting list. So again, I mean, I think isn't the stadium quite big? See, you would have assumed that there'd be more season ticket holders in there, but nevertheless, there are not, so we'll move on. And then if we look at again and we do up from our current ability, you can see, look, that's a very solid team for this division. That you can pretty much scroll down and pick out the first 11 just looking at that list there. Where it kind of gets ropey is there's a certain element that it starts to dwindle down, like from Scott McKenna down. I mean, you've got Mordigans, right? It's got high potential, but there is an obvious decline at some point. Here, probably Ryan Yates and downwards, minus a couple with really high potential. You've got players that arguably you're going to need to try and look to shift on, especially someone like Cafu. He's never getting in the team. And Toffolo, again, never going to get in the team. And Colback, like I mentioned before, he's on 20,000 a week. And so is this dude here. 2-star on 20,000 a week, and then you've got one down here on 15. So you can kind of see their issues. And actually, even worse, Hennessy is on 20, and he's like a 2-star, potential ability. Sorry. So yeah, I would say there's big problems on the horizon in terms of finances if you don't find a way of shifting these players. Now, on the positive, I have been in the beta save, and I was able to shift some of these players. You have to kind of accept less money, but that's okay as long as you're getting, the players out. Now, I would say that striking wise, they've got Brennan Johnson, and then they've got the dude they signed from a team, Union Berlin, maybe, yeah. But he's not as high potential as you might expect. So I would probably say their striking is probably the weakest element. Perhaps I could be proven wrong. Maybe he gets 30 goals a season, but I'd say, looking at it from this kind of very limited perspective, I'd say that he is definitely going to be the area, or that is definitely the area that you need to look to improve. Now, I think we'll move on to the next team. Okay, let's talk about our final team. Now, I've picked this out simply because there's a lot of press and a lot of excitement about this team. They've got a documentary out on Disney Plus, and that's Wrexham AFC. Now, they are owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McEnany. I probably just butchered that name there. And they're kind of really trying to get out of that division. Now, in the documentary on Disney Plus, it showed them spending money, buying Paul Mullen, buying Ollie Palmer. So they spent money on quality players, and it didn't quite work for them last season. Now, I think if you're this team, and you're probably being them because of the fact they've been taken over by some Hollywood A-listers, that's probably the reason why. The league they're in is the National League. The top division in the non-league, and their media prediction is first. Now we're going to go and have a look at their team and see what we think of what they've currently got and how we rate that to go forward. Okay, here we go. So we're looking at their club vision again, like we have in previous teams. They want to sign high reputation players. So that's going to be high reputation in the National League. That does give them some scope. They want to grow the club's reputation. So doing well in the FA Cup, getting promotion will certainly do that. In terms of their 5-year plan, they want to win promotion to League 2. It's going to be a hard one, and it's a very difficult league to get out of. But nevertheless, it's something definitely with the Paul Mullen and Ollie Palmer up front, you should expect to at least do relatively well. Be competitive in the FA Cup, be competitive in the FA Trophy, and my contract would end at the end of that season. So they actually, if you do get promoted, they have very high expectations. So they would want you to reach the League 2 playoffs and to win promotion to League 1 and then to remain in League 1. And so with Wrexham, unlike the other teams, I'd say that their club vision, certainly from their owners, is one of very optimistic but also very challenging. I can't imagine if you didn't get promoted in the first season that you wouldn't get sacked. I think that's definitely the way of looking that out. I just don't imagine that you could get away with not getting promoted. In terms of supporters, they want to play entertaining football, develop players using the youth system, gain automatic promotion, much the same, get better than our rivals. This is a new thing, actually, this kind of doing better than these kind of teams. It's a kind of new element of Football Manager 23. And it's kind of cool. It kind of adds to it, I think, personally. I think it gives a different element. So if we go to our club info and look at our facilities, now you can see that they've got good training facilities. I'd imagine that's since the guys from Hollywood came in. Adequate youth facilities, which excellent academy coaching, which I'm impressed with, and some average youth recruitment. So, they've certainly got the basis there that is very going to help you, if you take on this job, make some progress pretty quick. In terms of capacity of ground, again, it's 15,000. So it's a really good, 10,000 is generally used, but it's a really good capacity at this level, and certainly something that is going to help you progress pretty quick if you can get out of the division. Now, let's have a look at the squad. Now, we know that our man, Paul Mullen, is in there, and actually, he's not even the best player according to this, Ollie Palmer is, and you've got two strikers who are going to get you goals. If you look at their history, you got 15 goals in 20 appearances last season. You'd like to think that you're going to follow a very similar suit this season, and Paul Mullen the same. He scored 26 in 38 in real life. You'd like to think that if you weren't getting 15, 20 goals out of him in Football Manager, it'd be a big surprise. And again, there's all the way down the team, they've got pretty solid players. It does scope off after a while, and then they sort of rope down. You've got players with potential, but generally there is a limit to the quality of players. But I'd say the nucleus of your team is good, and then it's just a case of building that up somehow, maybe adding a bit of depth. You don't need wonder players in this division. You just need enough quality to make the difference. And I think certainly going forward, if you can get your back line solid, you've got, his central defender is nearly as good as those guys. I think you've got a solid basis there. Now, if we look at the finances, 3 million in the bank, which I would imagine is pretty good for this level, if not amazing for this level. I haven't managed or looked at many financial reports in the Conference League, but I would say that it's going to be pretty good. And then obviously you're going to be making a loss. That makes sense because you're paying people a ridiculous amount of money. Now, if we look in terms of the supporters, how do we get there again? Club Vision supporters, 14% of those are hardcore, so a slight increase in hardcore fans actually, and that kind of makes sense because as you progress down the league, there is, the people that are supporting those teams want to support them. There's no question about that. People that are Manchester United fans, not to slag them off, and maybe a bit fair weather. I'd imagine their fair weather categories are higher, or casual fans are definitely higher. But when you're getting down to the non-league teams, they want to be there. So it's not a surprise that 14% are hardcore and 40% are core fans. It's really not a surprise. Now, if we look at the social media follows, I would say that they're probably higher than the average, and maybe because of what we know about them. And their season ticket holders are 3.4 thousand. So out of 10,000 potential seats, 3.4 1,000 of those are season ticket holders, which is very good. I mean, I'd be interested to see how the season ticket waiting list goes up along as you progress. That'll be an interesting feature. I haven't completed the season yet of any team, but that'll be interesting to see how that works. So I think looking at all of the teams that I've picked out, whether it's Como, Nottingham Forest, Bordeaux or Wrexham, I think I would be inclined to go with Bordeaux. I think personally, I think Bordeaux, although it's kind of a false or kind of element there that they are in Ligue 2. However, they have a lot of money. They've got the potential to increase their, projections are pretty strong. I know they've got some debt, but I think in terms of fallen giant, in terms of bringing a save forward and creating a challenge, I think I would do that. If you're up for a big challenge, then Como are definitely the team. I mean, but I think for general kind of like bringing back a fallen giant, Bordeaux certainly wins for me. Right. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the content you've seen, please give a like and subscribe. All those nice things help out. If you hit the notification button, then you'll hear about the latest videos as they are released. Right. Thank you very much. Goodbye.